The first hard freeze is coming. Chances are the tomato plants are not going to survive. So I'm going to look and see if there's any that I can take the suckers off and root into pots and try and keep them over the winter. So I'm looking at my various plants to see which ones I want to try and save. This tomato here in the front yard is very strung out and leggy. You see that it got long vines. So this is not one I'm going to try and root. This tomato may be a little hard to grow in a pot. You can see that it's really big tomatoes here. But I'm going to give it a try because this bush has survived so well in the cool temperature. That's exactly what I want in my tomatoes. So I need to carefully look for the cutting that is in between the stem and the leaf, but doesn't already have tomatoes on it. So here, this one is far too long. You see that the stem goes all the way down to here. Although the stem will root, that's too much for the plant to support. This would be a really good top, but you can see when it comes down here, it's actually part of the stem. The stem here continues and doesn't form a 3. So this is not a good one to break off. It won't root as well. This one right here is what I'm looking for. It's well developed on the top. It doesn't have blooms yet. Let me bring the stem out here a little bit. If you can see here, this stem of my sucker has its own leaf, and it joins right here so that I've got the stem and a leaf and the sucker in between. So this is the 3 that you want to look for. It already has some white hairs here that will develop into roots. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one to root. Because it's nice and cool in the morning, they snap right off. You want to make sure they're well watered so that they're crisp, and then twisting back and forth causes them to break off. So all these little roots here all these hairs here can form roots. I like this tomato plant the best because it has stayed compact, so it didn't make really long vines. Here, this would be an ideal sucker right here. Let me see if I can turn it so that you can see. This is the perfect 3. I've got the stem, the leaf, and the sucker here. It's very sturdy, very good green leaves. The problem is it's already, so this is exactly what I'm looking for. In order to break the sucker off, I'm going to snap it right at this joint. Right at this joint. I'm going to snap it forward and back, and it will just break. This is the sucker that I'll plant then and try and root. All the white hairs here will develop into roots. Here is another one. And it looks really good. The downside to this one is that it already has some blooms here. Those won't make it, and those will pull the energy out of the plant. Also down here, is a little one. This one's not developed enough. I need enough stem to put out those roots. So I think I am going to go ahead and take this one, even though it has blooms on it. I'll take those little teeny buds off, and then I will see if I can root these. So the process for rooting tomatoes is pretty easy. And I have 2 cups. They are soft drink cups, and the reason I'm using them is because they're clear, so I can see when the roots have started to root. I have 2 of them, and I have 2 different types of plants. So I'm going to put this one in the smaller cup, and I'm going to go ahead and take off this lower leaf, and that will leave a good top here. I'm going to make sure there's no blooms because I don't want that to take the energy. All of these little white hairs will turn into roots. So all I need to do is put it in the cup, fill it with dirt, and make sure that it stays really well watered. I'm using a garden soil because it's loose. Once I have roots, and I'll be able to see through the side when I have the roots. Once I have the roots, then I will transplant this into a different pot. So the goal here is just to have dirt around it so that all of those little white hairs develop into roots, and to make sure that it stays very, very moist. So the only moisture, since this plant has no roots, its moisture is coming from the bottom of the stem, sort of like a straw, and those little hairs. So that's why I need to make sure that that dirt stays very, very moist. So I'm going to put a little of this dirt here in the bottom. And then again, since I want all of these to develop into roots, I'm going to take this off, this stem, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm even going to take off this one here. Here are some little buds, little blooms. I'm going to pinch those off as well because I don't want it trying to form tomatoes while it has no roots. Okay, so I'll put that in. I have another one that's the same type here. And again, there was a joint here, but that will be able to suck some of the water up. But it hasn't damaged the plant because it's designed to break off right at this joint. I'm going to take off this branch, and I think I'll go ahead and leave this one. So I've got this much to grow roots on. I'll put it in there. Those white hairs go all the way up the stems. Anywhere that the tomato touches the ground, it will root. The key is to keep the dirt very moist. The other really nice thing about clear cups is I can see the water level inside. I can see the water sinking down to the bottom. I can see if there's too much. Here there's really no chance of having too much water. The problem is if the water all sinks down to the bottom, that doesn't help. I need the water right around the stem so that those little hairs can develop into roots. So what I'll do each day is just drip right next to the stem to try and keep that part of the dirt very moist. We'll keep an eye, and I will show you as the roots develop. It's been 2 weeks, and I need to get this video finished so that I can move these tomatoes into a bigger pot. In 2 weeks since I put them in here, they have developed extensive root system. So you can see in this one, the roots are all the way down here to the bottom. And this is what I like about the plastic cups, is I can actually see that my roots down here are at the bottom. I have some really large ones. All these roots developed from the hairs on the stem. Now I used just regular garden soil out of a bag. I didn't put any rooting compound. I didn't put any special other dirt. If you use rooting compound, it will work even better. But I didn't need to do that. All I needed to do was put the tomato in the dirt and make sure that it stayed watered. Now it also has some blooms up here. And we'll see if they make it. I've taken them outside when it's been sunny, but it is past Thanksgiving now. It's really cold outside. It's been around 25 degrees for the low and only about into the 40s for the high. So a lot of times these plants are having to stay inside now, and so they're not getting the sun and everything that they would really like to do well. I need to get these transplanted because in order to put water down here for the roots now, it's kind of drowning them, and so that's why they're turning yellow on the end. So let me show you some of the others. This was the other type of plant. Here you can see extensive root system. Not as much as the other plant. This is a different type of tomato and it didn't root quite as well. Here's another. You can see the root itself here has put out additional hairs. Additional side roots. Looking at the root network that is developed in just 2 weeks with nothing but dirt and water. And again, this tomato is looking healthy on the top, and you can see it has some yellow blooms here. We will see if they develop into tomatoes. But I need to get this guy in a pot. This one also has blooms. And a very nice network of roots. So you can see it's pretty easy to grow a tomato from a sucker off of an existing tomato plant. The tomatoes that you grow from here don't have to go up from seed. They are the same maturity level as the plant that you took them off of. So these plants had blooms or were off of plants with blooms, and they still have blooms. They're ready to produce in just 2 weeks. I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day and good luck with your tomatoes.